Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Cammus Simulation Touring Car Championship Season 5, powered by VRRC. I bet you weren't expecting to hear my voice entering us into this particular round, but unfortunately, Andy McEwan has been caught back at work, so it's myself on the comms tonight, but I'm joined, as ever, by the multi-talented Lewis Edwards, both on the broadcast and in the commentary box with me. Lewis, how the devil are we?
I'm really good, thanks. I'm happy the picture of the Red Bull Ring Bull featured first. That was completely random. It's on random playback for the images, so my night's going off to a great start. And I think we have got a great evening of action awaiting us this evening.
I do believe we are indeed, and a little bit of a spoiler there as well in the background. The Red Bull coming over our screens. We are, of course, at the Red Bull Ring, which does offer pretty much in any kind of championship you want to throw at it, an unbelievable night's racing. You can probably guess now that we are over halfway, because we've been doing this championship for a couple of weeks now, but we're at Magny-Cours, we're at Brno, Mugello, and of course Barcelona last week, which first race, a little bit processional, second race, anything but. We'll be getting into that a little bit later. Red Bull Ring is where we kick off the second half of the season. Then we followed by Zandvoort, Donington Park, and then, of course, Hockenheim to round out the championship. Not many championships rounded out at Hockenheim, Lewis. I can't think of one, actually, off the top of my head. But it's not a bad circuit, and it's certainly a test for these drivers in these touring cars.
Absolutely, yeah. The reason we came up with Hockenheim was on another very famous platform on PC for sim racing. They have an official Porsche Cup championship, and they always start at Hockenheim, and it always produces brilliant racing. So I thought, why don't we end our championship round there if the racing is so good in other online racing? Let's give it a go.
Yeah, so the sim that shall not be named on VRRC. But yeah, we're open to everything. But of course, we use Assetto Corsa here. We do have a little bit of a look at potentially the last race, though, don't we, Lewis? Now, you are the encyclopedic knowledge that is VRRC, and you'll probably be fully aware that Elliot Daltonez came out on top. Oliver Gibson, though, was only 2 points back. He scored 43 points on the night. Elliot Daltonez scored 45. And Andy Carroll, who was sublime in the second race from memory, and actually pretty good all round. He came home with 40 points, but more importantly to him, I would say, he came home with driver of the round after winning race 2 and having a pretty good, solid evening overall, Lewis.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy drove definitely by far his best race of the season to get that win in the second race. Really Andy Carroll-esque drive, if I do say so. He just put his car in the right place, got a little bit lucky with how the incidents fell his way, but you have to have a bit of luck in racing. But he did absolutely everything he needed to do, and he took home the win and the driver of the round. Oliver Gibson nearly managed to take top honours overall, but I think a little bit of a difficult race too. He got involved in a lot of the midfield scrapping, which Elliot had managed to clear in that second race, and obviously Elliot was quite far up on the podium in both races, so he was nice and consistent, which I think just about pushed him over Oliver, who did get fastest lap points for I think it was both races potentially in the end. So Elliot did a really good job consistency-wise to overhaul Oliver, who was on pole position, won race 1 and potentially got both fastest laps.
Yeah, you probably know better than me. I'm just going to trust you that he got the fastest laps there, Lewis. And one name that isn't on there is slightly surprising is Jack Smith. But he is on the next slide because, of course, we have to lead into the championship standings. Now, Jack Smith is on top. There are multiple drop rounds that are going on now as well. We have 2 drop rounds in this particular championship, which just makes my head hurt, but we're going to go with it. So effectively what you're seeing now is representative. Jack Smith's worst 2 rounds have been dropped, and that's actually means that his first 2 evenings of this championship are the ones that counted, because he was absolutely dominant before the BMW got a slight adjustment to it to make it slightly less dominant. It means he's on 106 points. Elliot Dalton-Ayres is charging up the order with 78, but only 1 point ahead of Oliver Gibson. I said that it was close last week. It's even closer in the championship, as you can see. Nicky Taylor only 2 points behind Elliot Dalton-Ayres, and then you have a little bit of a gap back down to Andy Carroll. The race for 5th, though, is just about as impressive as the race for 2nd currently. It's Andy Carroll, Fabrizio Torri, the newcomer to the championship, Joel Lask and Kyle Feldwas, all within the 60-point categories. 69 points down to 63 between those 4 drivers. And then Josh Martin, who's had a little bit of an evening to forget. And he did give us a bit of an excuse, actually. He did explain himself on the Discord afterwards. I'll see if I can remember exactly what he said or find it so I don't butcher his words. But he was having a bit of a mare last week. Jordan Taylor is currently just inside the top 10 as well. So what are they fighting for? What is all the racing to do with? Well, we have prizes on the line because it's the VRRC. It's what we do. We give out great prizes. We have a Cammus Simulation direct drive wheel and a first place trophy to go along with it for the first place in the championship. Second place, we'll get the Aegon 34-inch gaming display, a fantastic monitor, 120 frames, 120 hertz, I believe. So some fantastic quality there. Third place, the GT Rigs Sim Racing seat, and third place trophy, of course. And then 4th place and 5th place get some nice attire to go with it, personalised from VRRC, from Delta Racewear, our lovely new partners, and they can get that customised with whatever they want on there as well. So let's say if it's Stuart Vickers who wins 4th place, he'll be able to get Stu Vickers on it and his race number, for instance, fully customizable. We also have the driver of the round, which has an NGK jacket and a nice little medal. And the fan of the round, and there's 2 versions of fan of the round. One of them, you just need to be subscribed. If you're subscribed, you never watch a broadcast again, you may well be picked out each and every week for an NGK hat. And the other one is if you're the most entertaining person in the YouTube chat, and you have to be subscribed as well. But we've got plenty of people. You don't have to be overly entertaining. Maybe it's just something positive. Maybe it's something that makes us laugh when we're just reading through and scrolling through. Any kind of interaction we're always grateful for. But yeah, potentially an NGK bobble hat on the way to the fans of the round each and every week. Right now, we are going to go into some on-track action, but we do have a new little segment to come in. We introduced into this season potential weather. Now, we haven't had any variation in weather, really, over the course of this particular championship until now, perhaps. We have Dave from the YouTube chat with the weather update.
Hi, it's Dave from YouTube chat here today to give you a weather report for today's race at the Red Bull Ring. So we start off in the morning with a risk of rain throughout practice and qualifying. So you want to get your place secured, banked in, so you have a good position for race 1, just in case the session gets washed out. That follows into race 1, which will be rain. So you'll either be flying to the front of the grid, or you'll be spinning out of the back. Depends on if you're good or not. Which you all are, but some people don't like rain. And that's the same in race 2. So if you didn't do very well in race 1, you have a second opportunity. Unless there's some guys coming up from the back, which are going to be on it. Doubt any of them will be Josh Martin. That's all from me, and good luck.
Hello and welcome to the Red Bull Ring. I am Lewis Edwards and I'm going to be taking you around the track guide for this, the 5th round of the Cammus Simulation Touring Car Championship. Braking at the 100 metre board for turn 1, down to 3rd gear, clipping the apex curb but not the yellow sausage curbs through here, and just so vital to get a good run out of turn 1 as we've got by far the longest flat out section approaching us now. We're going up the hill through turn 2 and we're going to be drifting our way over to the left hand side for turn 3. brake at the 100-meter board, going down in second gear. I avoid clipping up too much this apex curb as I find that can unsettle the car a little bit. Again, important to get a nice exit as we've got a pretty sizable straight on the run up to turn 4 now. Going to be drifting our way over to the left-hand side ever so slightly here, and again looking for that 100-meter board to slam the brakes at. We're going to be down to third gear. We drift the apex slightly more through here to just get that car rotating nice and early. Now drifting over to the right-hand side through turn 5, and we're going to stay right to open up the entry to 6. Have to be really patient through here. Just wait for the front end to grip up. When you're confident it has, then you can get back to the power. Be careful on the track limits on the entry to turn 7. They're quite strict there. Clipping up the apex curb for a good bit of rotation, and then using the curb on the apex of 8 to pull you around nicely. We're already heading up towards the penultimate corner. It's a very short lap at the Red Bull Ring, but really crucial couple of corners to get right. Use the apex curb for rotation again. Avoid going too wide on the exit for track limits. Similar story through 10. Get a nice good exit onto the start-finish straight, and that completes a lap of Red Bull Ring.
Thank you very much to Dave and Lewis for giving us that little bit of an update on not only the weather, but how the racetrack will look. But Lewis, I'll be honest, it looks a little bit more wet out there than when you did your track guide.
Yeah, it's poured it down, absolutely. Yeah, you can see that all the cars pretty much are on the blue sidewalled wet weather tyres. Yeah, every car in the field has elected for those wet tyres. Nobody's decided to be ultra brave. I think when you can see the reflections of the objects beside the track clearly on the road surface, then you know you've got a layer of water all the way across the track, and it's definitely time for some wet tyres. But at the moment, it's Nicky Taylor, real world racing driver, who's got the advantage at the moment.
He has got the advantage, hasn't he? And there are a couple of other names that were rising right to the top during practice, but in practice they were allowed to use the push-to-pass system, and it was, I think it was dry mostly, whereas in the qualifying you are not allowed to use the push-to-pass, and of course it is soaking wet out there. So it's going to be potentially a whole host of different drivers that are going to qualify towards the front. Joel Lask, though, Lewis, is a driver that not only in this qualifying, he's currently sat second, but in practice he was flying. And you said that he's probably the most consistent of those front runners as well. He was there not because he used 100 different push-to-passes over the course of the lap. You think he's actually there on pace?
Yeah, I think Joel's dropped some weight again. He's down to 20 kilos, as you can see on the red numbers on the left-hand side of your screens. So he's a bit happier with his I-30, and I think this track just suits his style a bit more. He's a bit more on the aggressive side of the driving style scale, and I think this track is really suiting him at the moment. He just seems to be getting on with it nicely. But one person I would like to mention, who we don't usually give much of a mention to, is Kenny Press is currently in 6th place, and there's absolutely no unrepresentative times here. That is a very solid, quick time from Kenny. So he's obviously gelling with the rain really nicely.
Yeah, Kenny Press. We do normally give Kenny Press a shout out, but let's face it, I don't think he'll take much offence. It's normally in race 2, isn't it? Because he's starting towards the front on the reverse grid. But it is good to see that he's climbed up. He's within the top 10, just dropped down to 7th. But I'm sure he will not be disappointed, even if he came 7th in this one. Elliot Dalton-Ayres is up to 4th, of course, trying to chase down championship leader Jack Smith. And we were talking about top 10s for Kenny Press. Well, there is just as big a story outside the top 10, and that is our championship leader is currently sat outside of it. He is in 11th place. He is going green in sector 1, but that BMW rear-wheel drive, Lewis, maybe a little bit tricky in the wet conditions.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little more difficult in some areas and better in others. I think it'll be quite good on the brakes, but it might be a little bit sketchy on the exits, but it'll be better through the mid-corner than the front-wheel drives. I think it's just different. I think over a lap, I think it will give you the same lap time. You just have to get the lap time in a different way. But you can see Elliott there really struggling with wheel spin on the exit. The front tyres in his i30 just spinning up there on the exit, and that pushed him wide. Whereas if we look to Jack, we might see him... Oh, he's actually coming through the same sequence of corners. No, he's bailing for the pits. But we might see some oversteer on the exit for the BMW, as opposed to understeer. No, Oliver keeps it really tidy through the final corner. Only a 42.6 for him at the moment. So that is 1.2 seconds off Nicky Taylor. So we're really seeing quite large gaps between the drivers at the moment.
Oh, my apologies. Just as I'm about to start speaking, I breathe in and start coughing. Yeah, Josh Martin, currently 16th as well. Look, Iyengar just looking for the other rear-wheel drives, really. Not loving life at the moment, which is a bit of a shame for them. But they are coming into the pits. I'm not sure. I doubt we're going to get a change in weather halfway through qualifying. I imagine we're going to stick to this sort of rainy conditions. But it is interesting to see whether they can strap on a new set of boots, get out there and potentially start pushing the limits a little bit more. Fabrizio Torri is quite a decent jump up to third place, isn't he? He was third place in practice as well. We were talking about Joel Last being consistent in second in practice and then into qualifying. Well, Fabrizio Torri is done exactly the same, but in third in practice, third in qualifying. So he's really good and strong here tonight. And Jordan Taylor seems to prefer these wet conditions, I would say, because he's qualifying currently in sixth place. And sometimes, we sort of almost lose track of where Jordan is. He's well outside the top 10 in the previous couple of qualifyings. He finds himself in sixth position, which is pretty good going. And Rich Hayden as well, probably the other one just behind Kenny Prescott right now, just ahead of Oliver Gibson. He's potentially threatening that he won't race. He's only running at 30 frames per second. And ideally, if you're not a computer nerd out there, well, we don't blame you, but effectively, you want to be running at 60 frames per second. So if you are 30, obviously that's not ideal. And effectively what that means is you might go into a corner and your game might skip a little and you might miss your braking zone and everything like that. So it's effectively, it's just not ideal. So Rich Hayden hopefully will race as he's out in qualifying, but he might not going forward, or potentially might not feature in race 2 if race 1 is too bad. Right, everybody's coming into the pits, Lewis. Everybody's trying to strap on a new pair of boots, aren't they?
Yeah, one thing I'm thinking might be the case is actually the first lap might be the very first flying lap out the pits, because if we think that it's raining, because you can see quite clearly here it's raining a lot, then surely the track's going to be getting worse every lap they do. So It's likely that actually that people are going to struggle to improve on their times. Having said that, Joel Lask has just set a green sector 1, but I'm seeing a lot of orange and a lot of red on our timing screens at the moment. Orange means that people aren't improving on their personal best times, and red means they've invalidated somewhere. This track is particularly strict on track limits. Those of you that follow real-life Formula 1 will know exactly what I'm talking about. But instead of the stewards and some sort of electronic system guessing at whether cars are on or off the track, we have a system that absolutely knows whether a car is sufficiently within the track limits or not. And if they do go out of track limits, they are given a chance to give back the time they've gained in order to not get a warning. So that might be something that will feature more in the race. As that's a drifting line on the way in from Joel there. He is on a fairly solid lap. Nicky Taylor's on a good lap at the moment. He's set a very quick middle sector, but is he going to get held up by Paul Laramie here, who also appears to be on a lap?
Yeah, it was a good save. No track limits infringement, was it? Even though it was a lot of drifting. Paul Laramie not really in the correct place on the track. He runs a little bit wide himself, actually, for going too narrow. And there he goes. He's rejoining. But Nicky Taylor, I don't think will be improving now because of that. There are some green sectors. Fabrizio Torri is on 2 green sectors. He's on a flyer. He's 3/10 up, actually, going into the final couple of corners. Fabrizio Torri, where's this going to potentially jump him up to? Well, let's find out, because he's going to cross the line rather than me trying to figure it out. Fabrizio Torri crosses the line. Is it going to be an improvement? I'm not sure, because have we crossed the line with Fabrizio Torri yet? We have, but it's not coming up on my timing board.
Yeah, it was a timing improvement, but it wasn't a place improvement. Yeah, apologies. There appears to be a bit of an issue with the live timing at the moment, which means that cars are coming across the line and we're not seeing their lap times pop up super quickly. So that's why Jack hesitated a bit there when we didn't know whether Fabrizio was improving or not.
I was going to say, his third sector just never appeared for me, but it was slower, unfortunately. So, not so many green times. We're into the last minute of qualifying. I'm just having a look at the YouTube chat as well, which, by the looks at this final lap into the final minute, is potentially the most interesting thing on my screen. And I'm seeing that Kyle Felvers, obviously not on the track. I was wondering where he was, but he's in the YouTube chat. Kyle, do tell us where you are. And Sam Zero, nice to see you back as well. Hopefully see you back on the grid at some point soon. Right, Andy Dorman on a green sector 1. Kenny Press actually green sector 1 as well. Sector 2 is not bad. It's not the best we've had out there, but equally not bad. But his third sector is not much to write home about either. But he is still currently sat in 7th place. John Taylor's gone green in sector 2. Andy Dorman is probably the driver that we're currently looking at to really trouble the front runners, though. Fabrizio Torri has gone green in sector 2 again. His sector 1 isn't bad. It's probably about a 10th off. He seems to be breaking even over the course of the lap right now, Fabrizio Torri. So we'll focus with Andy Dorman, who's just done a 41.9. Again, about maybe a 10th off, but I think overall he's about a 10th or 2 up. How can he string the last 2 corners together? Climbs over the curb on the right-hand side. Luckily, doesn't run track limits, gets the power down nice and early. Andy Dorman crossing the line to finish. Where is he going to come up to? I think it's still going to be 4th place. Yes, Andy Dorman in 4th position then. Nicky Taylor currently in 1st, Joel Lask in 2nd. Fabrizio Torri in 3rd. They were probably sweating a little bit at Dorman's pace, but they wasn't converted into anything. Jack Smith just inside the top 10, but with a green sector 1. I don't think he's crossed the finish line yet, so we could see an improvement from him. Who are we looking at right there, actually? Who is that we're looking at right now? It's a new driver that I hadn't seen before. Sorry, Nelson Abruhanoza. Sorry, I probably butchered that. It's pixelated. I'll call it Nelson for now while I have a look during the qualifying how to pronounce the name properly. But a new driver that we've joined into the championship. He's currently in 15th place. Kenny Press dropped down to 8th position. Craig Curtis is up to 6th. That's why a really good qualifying for him. Jack Smith on 2 green sectors as well. The top 10 is still well within sights. He's currently in 10th place. What can he string together? Can he jump ahead of Rich Hayden? Oliver Gibson is currently in 11th as well. So really not that brilliant for the BMW drivers. Lewis, as they're coming down towards the final corner, Jack Smith, the current championship leader, all that weight on board really hampering him, it seems. But he's going to come across the line with 2 green sectors. What's the 3rd one got in his belt? Jack Smith up to 8th position. Kenny Press just gets pipped as well by Rich Hayden, who moves up to 9th. A good end to the session there. Kenny Press still inside the top 10. Well done to him, ahead of Oliver Gibson. A really strong qualifying all round then. Joel Lask and Fabrizio Torri are not going quicker on this particular lap. So we're going to jump to a short break before we have a chat to our pole sitter, Nicky Taylor. Nelson Abrun Hoser. I'm not just saying that because he's qualified in pole position. I'm just saying it because I can prove that I can say it. Thank you very much, Bolton Scouser, in the chat. Right, I can now chat to our pole position sitter, Nikki Taylor. Nikki, that was a difficult session by the looks of it, but you were quick in the practice, so I suppose it's no surprise to see that you're going to be quick in the qualifying, even in wet conditions.
Yeah, I like it being wet in quali as well, because obviously in official practice and whatever, and in practice sessions, you can't really tell what people's pace is on wet, because obviously everyone does their lap times in dry, and then it's set to their best lap in dry, so you really don't know who's quick in wet. So I like it on that behalf, as in I'm kind of like a little flying under the radar here. But yeah, the car feels mint in the wet here. I've got my setup pretty much dialed, and yeah, I just feel like a one with the car in the wet.
Well, it's not guaranteed to stay wet over the next 2 races, but of course, I'm guessing you're probably hoping that it's going to. Do you have a setup that you think, you know what, the dry wouldn't be the end of the world as well?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's pretty much the same sort of setup I had at Barcelona, which I know my results at Barcelona were shocking, but the setup was there and I had the car behind me. I'm just not that quick at Barcelona. So yeah, this can go either dry or wet, and I've got my dry strategy set up and wet just in case it goes from slicks to wet. So yeah, I'm prepared for all eventualities. The only thing I haven't really done much of is starting in the wet. So this will be interesting.
I was going to ask, we have a bit of a theme here at this particular championship, that the person who qualifies on first tends to win race 1, not necessarily without a bit of a fight, but is that, obviously that's going to be something that you're hoping to repeat, but how confident are you that you're going to be able to repeat it? Because a lot of the time they're on rear-wheel drives and they can just get off the line really easily.
Now, if this was the championship beforehand, where I got pole and then won the previous 5 races in a row, I'd be quite happy and quite confident on pole. But Joel and Fabrizio, with their less weight, are going to be bullets in a straight line. So this is going to be a very, very hard race to keep them at bay. But I'll try my best. I'm aided with, it should be wet for both races, so overtaking is going to be very, very hard. I think there's about 3 corners when it's wet that you can overtake without murdering someone. So I should be lucky on that behalf. But yeah, if I get a bad start, then obviously Joel and Fabrizio are going to be right up my chuff. So we're just going to have to see how it goes.
I'm actually looking for you in the championship standings, and currently, according to my screen, you're in 2nd place. Well, I think it's 3rd actually, because drop rounds go funny once you do qualifying. But hopes to catch up to Jack Smith. He's qualified only just inside the top 10, which is a bit unusual for him.
Yeah, I'm still in the championship fight no matter what. I was 4th coming into the round, which changed literally midweek. I went from 2nd to 4th with being 2 points back from Elliott in 2nd. But yeah, if it's wet for the rest of the championship, then I think we've got a fighting chance of getting towards Jack. It's just a bit annoying that at the start of the championship with the dry and with the ride height, I didn't know what I was doing too much, so I started off a bit on the back foot. But yeah, if it's wet for the remaining races, then so be it, mate. Bring it on. We can bring it to Jack, and I think Jack's a bit sketchy in the wet because of the BMW, where it's quick in the dry, but it's a bit slower in the wet. So we should be all good.
Well, we look forward to the showdown, and if it takes us all the way to Hockenheim, then that's only good for the viewer and us as neutrals as well. Nikki, congratulations on pole position. We'll see if we're speaking to you in about 20 minutes' time.
Hopefully so.
Right, that was Nikki Taylor, obviously currently sat on pole. And very, very quickly, Lewis, we're going to run through a little bit of what we've got coming up over the next couple of weeks at the VRRC before we get into race 1. We have the fun race on Sunday. That's on the 17th of September, 8 p.m. You can jump on. Big in Japan is the theme in that particular this weekend, sorry. So if you are just a casual viewer or you're a casual sim racer, this is completely free to enter. You don't need to be part of the VRRC. You don't need to be a paying member or anything. You can just jump on and see how quick you are compared to everybody else in the fun races. We also have the time attacks, which run on a similar theme, which you don't have to be a paying compatriot of VRRC. You can be just anybody off the street, basically, and you can jump on to Monaco in the Renault Clio for the next week or so and see what kind of lap times you can put in. There is cash prizes. You have to be a member of the VRRC to win those cash prizes. but you can still see how quick you are. £15 for first, all the way down to £3 for fifth place. I think we've got other graphics that we're going to throw up as well. I'm just waiting for Lewis to throw them up, and I'll then talk about them. There we go. The Le Mans Multiclass. This is the next special event that we're going to be doing in between the championships. We're going to reveal the next championship in a couple of seconds' time as well. But the first place gets an NGK remote control car. There's some shirts, personalized shirts, and a hat on offer for first, second, and third. And it's the first multiclass race that I think we've been doing for eons, to be honest, in VRRC. I can't remember the last time we did one. Whether it's LMP or GTs, though, you can be sure to get your hands dirty with this particular race. It's going to be awesome. 90 minutes endurance race as well. Finally, a proper endurance race for Andy McEwan to get excited about. And finally, the next championship. We are going to go live for the next race in about 20 seconds, but you can see on your screens it's the Porsche Cayman Cup. That is the main championship. That's going to have the full broadcast treatment, and that's going to run exactly the same as how we've done every other major championship. But we're going to have the Renault Clio Cup as a support race beforehand, kicking off at 6:30 with a live watch along with Lewis Edwards, and that will finish, and then we'll go straight into the Porsche Cayman Cup. So loads of VRRC racing action. Speaking of which, hopefully we can go to the grid now, and we can see Nicky Taylor lining up on the front row of the grid. You're probably sick of hearing my voice, but you're going to have to hear it for a couple of seconds longer before I bring Lewis Edwards in, because he has a lot to do as they go through the first couple of corners here. With Joel Lask alongside Nicky Taylor, it's certainly going to be a fast and frantic start. Fabrizio Torri and Andy Dorman are the second row. Again, two drivers you don't really want to count out, even if they're not necessarily always at the front end of the field. The lights are on, the engine notes have risen, and that can only mean one thing here at the VRRC. We are racing on a Wednesday night, and it is Nicky Taylor hoping and praying for a decent start. It doesn't look like he's got one. Although I think my racing is a little, my stream is a little bit laggy. There's chaos on the first corner. I can't quite see it. Lewis, you're probably better talking us through it.
Yeah, there's cars absolutely everywhere, struggling for grip to try and get themselves round the first corner with all of the tyres freezing cold. Everybody's just trying to build temperature and see what they can do at the moment. And it looks like, at the moment, Andy Dorman is in the race lead ahead of Nicky Taylor and Elliot Daltonez, two of Jack Smith's most fierce competitors, going at it for second place. We've got the BMWs line astern behind, though. They're up to fifth. Oliver Gibson has gained 6 places, I think that is, from his grid position, and he's side by side with his teammate Jack as Craig Curtis and Kenny Press. Go on, Kenny. We'd love to see Kenny do well. I've just fully cursed him. Absolutely cursed him. Can't believe it.
Don't worry, Kenny, that's all on Lewis. Again, race 2. Although, if he's that quick in qualifying, then race 2, if he does start towards the front end of the order, will be certainly one to be keeping an eye out on. It's going to be rather exciting for him. I had about 3 frames per second at the beginning of that race, which is why I didn't quite catch anything that happened in the first corner, so I do apologise. But Andy Dorman does lead, with Nicky Taylor just about rescuing his way up to second place, I think. Yep, still. Elliot Daltonez in third, and Jordan Taylor currently in fourth, with Jack Smith, like you said, and Oliver Gibson actually getting a rocket start. But we did expect that slightly with their with their rear-wheel drive capabilities. Josh Martin has also done pretty well to get himself inside the top 10. He's currently chasing down Chris Blakey, who's done well to get himself into 10th position. And as they cross the line, my timing screen can finally start sorting itself out. There we go. Who's just up the inside? It's Kenny Press, Josh Martin overtaking around the outside. A little bit of a bumping and margin just ahead of him as well, but Kenny Press getting a good switch back here, Lewis.
He absolutely is, but Josh is on the hybrid and Kenny isn't, so I think we're going to see the BMW launch a counter-attack down the straight, and we've obviously got Rich right in behind, ready to pick up the pieces and try and carve his way through where he can. Josh seems to be supreme on the brakes, but seems to be lacking any pace on the exits of the corners at the moment. BMWs further up are going side by side for 5th place, and they're slowly losing touch with the top 4 already, so it seems they're really struggling. But one man who isn't, Andy Dorman, out front.
Yeah, Andy's loving it, isn't he? Nicky Taylor, he said that he's got a dialed-in setup when we were chatting to him, so I don't think Andy Dorman's expecting this one to go all his way. But on pace, he wasn't that far behind Nicky, was he, Lewis? So I think he's probably sat there thinking, well, it's not like the guy behind me deserves to be much further forward than me. He's well within an opportunity to win this first race. So I think Nicky's going to have a hard time of it here. And if he can't get past Andy Dorman very quickly, And Elliot Dalton-Ayres, Jordan Taylor, they're going to be sniffing around before you know it, aren't you? It's got about 16 minutes left, 16 and a half minutes. That's a long time for Andy Dorman to keep Nicky behind him.
Yeah, I think the main reason Andy Dorman got past Nicky Taylor was because Nicky Taylor went pretty much nowhere off the line. He said he didn't really know how to start these cars in the wet. Well, that was a bit blindingly obvious when we saw Joel about 3 car lengths in front by the time we got to turn 1. But now Nicky's really beginning to get the tyres up to temperature. He's recovered it nicely, and he's now hunting down Andy Dorman, who, you're right, didn't qualify that much further down than Nicky, but I think Nicky's going for it now. Andy's saving his push to passes, but it looks like Nicky's going to get the job done as long as he can get it stopped for the hairpin here.
Yeah, as Nicky up the inside, he said there's only about 3 corners you can overtake, but he's trying to get the cutback. Is Andy Dorman? Is he going to use the push to pass? No, Nicky Taylor's actually covering that off with his own push to passes, using them up quite quickly, whereas Andy Dorman seems to be a little bit more reserved. Elliot Dalton-Ayres getting a nice draft and using the push to pass to get into second place. Andy Dorman's still just about there. Is it his corner? Is it not? We'll have to wait and see what the drivers think and then let the stewards decide if they decide to drive into each other. But Nicky Taylor has gotten away with it, and he's very much happy that the second place feud is starting to heat up as well, as Elliot Dalton-Ayres go really, really wide. Andy Dorman goes very, very narrow and effectively slows them both up, doesn't it? One driver that we haven't noticed, that we haven't mentioned since the start, started on second place, the front row, of course, but in second place, Joel Lask, currently down in 18th position. We were wondering what on earth happened, who was maybe the big losers in that collision on the first corner. Well, Joel Lask is certainly going to be one of the drivers who probably has a petition that he was the biggest loser. He is down from second down to 18th, Lewis. Heartbreaking for him.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't see the full picture of what happened to Joel, as there was just so much action, you didn't really know where to look. But it looked like either Joel dropped it on his own or there was a bit of lag involved, because it looked like he had the lead and then just had a little bit of a sideways moment, which I think may have got worse as we cut away to look at the battle for the lead. So I think that may be what caused Joel to end up somewhat down towards 18th place. But he's going to be trying to recover it now, and obviously in the back of his mind will be thinking about race 2. If it's similar to this, Joel has still got a very good chance for a solid round worth of points if he can make the difference in race 2, which he's trying to do on the outside of Alok, but he got boxed in there, couldn't quite manage to make the move on Alok because John Jones kind of boxed him in there, so he might be looking to use some hybrid just to get past. Andy Dorman's sticking with the top 2 just about though, but he's under big pressure from Jordan Taylor. Andy's got 3 more hybrids on Elliot Dalton-Ayres and 5 more than Nicky, so he's just saving it in the early stages, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a cat and mouse situation towards the end of the this particular race. I've just noticed that Reese has picked out a quote that I just said saying that Joel Lask is the biggest loser. That's not what I meant, Reese, and you know it. Please don't hate me, Joel. But I personally think if I was Joel, I'd be definitely looking at the second race more than anything else, because ultimately he's got good pace. He can drive away with that and get an easy race win, pick up all of those points. As it stands, he's obviously trying to fight through and make the best of a bad situation for this first one, but it's going to be difficult now, especially if he's got the likes of John Jones and Alok Iyengar scrapping around him. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on that a little bit later on, because we are focusing on the top 4 right now with Jordan Taylor in 4th place. Again, a position that we're not necessarily used to seeing him this championship, but he's driving well in the wet, isn't he, here? I wonder if he's... I know the HFT boys, as we always called them, the likes of Jordan Taylor, Kyle Felv. Jordan Taylor goes for a big lunge, actually. I wonder if there's a little bit of contact there, because all of a sudden, I don't know if Andy Dorman just sort of saw him coming on the rear view mirrors and decided, you know what, that's not worth my fight, or whether he got pushed on, because he completely missed the apex in the braking zone, Andy Dorman, and Jordan Taylor got that position. Here comes Andy Dorman, though, looking up the inside. It's not going to happen down the hill. You don't want to be lunging anybody there. Jordan Taylor gets the job done.
Yeah, I think Jordan just picked his moment there and really sent it down the inside and did get it stopped nicely. But yeah, as you were saying, Jordan seems to be a bit up and down at times. He's had a win in VRRC back in Croft in the previous Touring Car Championship. not in Croft, in Thruxton. He nearly had his first win in Croft. That's why I remembered it. But he's had moments when he's been right up there with the fastest guys in the championship, and he's had moments where it's been a bit scrappy and he's finished towards the bottom end of the field. And I think from jumping on the practice while he was on there after our race debrief on Monday, he seems to have a lot more confidence at this track than particularly some of the other tracks we've raced at. He seemed to be finding a rhythm, and it was actually Nicky Taylor who couldn't keep up with him. And we joked that Nicky would turn it around, but he was insistent that he would be consistently off the pace of absolutely everybody, and then stuck it on pole. So typical Nicky Taylor optimism.
I was going to say, are you saying that Nicky Taylor said one thing and did another? Are you saying that, Lewis? Because ultimately, he's been saying it's his last championship for the past 3 years, and he's always coming back for more, isn't he? Jack Smith moves his way up to 4th place as Andy Dorman gets a big tank slapper on break into the braking zone, allowing both BMWs past. No, Dorman gets back on the hybrid and tries to fend off Oliver Gibson. He doesn't want to lose both places, and he may well not lose any of them, actually. That rear brake may well have actually helped him in rotating the car a little bit. He's pulled well ahead, got on the power nice and early, and got well past Jack Smith again. Andy Dorman just about clinging on to that 4th position.
Yeah, he used a bit of a push to pass while the BMWs around him didn't, so that's why he managed to get the place back in the end. But yeah, what a save on the brakes there. I think he touched the curb on the entry there, which just locked the rears straight away. So really good save from Andy Dorman. He's having definitely his best race of the season so far. Best race we've seen from him in a long, long time, so really nice to see him going well. Kenny Press is down to 14th at the moment, so he's going to be looking to make his way up. Shout out to Chris Blakey, actually, up there in 8th place. We've just seen a purple Sector 1 from him, so he's obviously been using some push to pass and some good slipstream from somebody. But Chris, obviously new to the podium last time out in race 2. He's going to have a good bit of momentum on his side coming into this race, and he's beginning to make his way up towards the front of the field. In fact, he's quicker than pretty much everybody in front of him on that previous lap. So well done, Chris.
Yeah, loving the fact that Chris, but I'm just loving the fact that we've got a fair few not new drivers towards the front end, because they are all drivers that we have spoken about at the front end before. But in this championship, it's been, the BMWs have always been towards the front, Carl Felvis and people like that. So, but the likes of Nicky Taylor pushing forward now again, Elliot Daltonaire, those two are quite often there or thereabouts. But Andy Dorman, Jordan Taylor, Chris Blakey, Craig Curtis, Fabrizio Torri obviously qualified really, really well. Josh Martin, his current season is continuing to be exactly the same as the previous couple of rounds. It's not looking that brilliant for that BMW driver, is it? As the other two, Oliver Gibson and Jack Smith, push forward. It doesn't look like Josh Martin is really getting much look as he's fighting alongside Rich Hayden and Kenny Press and Joel Laskin. Bit of a shame for Kenny Press, isn't it? We've seen him fall down. And again, though, with that reverse grid, I think he's showing some pretty good pace. If he can get the racecraft sorted out and get used to running towards the front. And we've just given... Well, you gave him the commentator's curse earlier on, Lewis. I think I've just given him it that time.
Yeah, you can't pin that one on me, Jack.
No, I'm not giving you that one. That one's not very... Well, blame Andy. Shall we just blame Andy? Yeah, let's blame Andy.
Andy's lack of presence here is the sole reason that Kenny Press just dropped it there. That's all it was. Let's not put the camera on Kenny anymore at the risk of commentator cursing him.
No, it's going to be hard if he is now on pole for race 2, isn't it? We'll have to focus at the back of the grid instead. Joking aside, he is, apart from that, driving really, really well tonight. And I am excited to see what he can get up to in race 2. Because quite often when he starts around that first or second position in race 2, we do tend to see him fall away after about 5 minutes. But with the pace that he's showing, you never know. If the rest of them are a little bit slow going forward, then... oh my days, that's a big loss, isn't it? Andy Dorman did exactly the same thing but managed to hold it. Chris Blakey did a full 360, drives back onto the racing line, hits Nathan Smith, and then drives away again. My goodness, Lewis, that is proving to be an extremely tricky braking zone into one of the most important corners on the circuit.
that was like a preemptive commentator's curse, because I was about to say Chris Blakey's closing in on this group for the lead.
I would have let you get away with that one as well.
But as I was about to say it, he drops it. So, yeah, apologies to everybody. We're just cursing. I think it's just people are struggling. It can't be a commentator's curse. This is definitely a curse now, because Oliver's just gone off. I can't believe it. Sorry, guys, we can't look at anybody at the risk of cursing them, because it seems like everybody we look at falls off the track.
Should we just throw the same League of Legends adverts 3, 4, 5 times before the and just let everybody race and get into a groove again? Because everybody seems to be throwing it off. I think Oliver Gibson didn't lose that many positions, but Craig Curtis did overtake him. And it's the age-old saying, isn't it, Lewis? To finish first you have to finish. And ultimately, the most consistent drivers in the wet, even though they might not be the fastest drivers, most consistent, are going to be coming out on top. And I have to say, we haven't spoken that much about him since the race got underway, pretty much. But Nicky Taylor has done very well, but he's got a very aggressive Elliot Dalton-Ayres chasing him down, hasn't he? I'm not sure what the push-to-pass situation is, but going into the braking zone, I thought maybe there was going to be a bit of a lunge there by Elliot.
Yeah, they're even on 4. Oh, Nicky has just used one now to defend. So Nicky is on 3 remaining and Elliot has got 4 remaining. But yeah, I felt certain Elliot was going to look for a move there. But it looks like he's just got a bit more confidence in the car than Nicky does at the moment. Both running very high-powered direct drive wheels. And they're both real racing drivers who enjoyed racing in the rain. So on paper, we're in for a great fight for the next 5 minutes and 13 seconds, plus the rest of the last lap that we're in for. And I think Elliot just looks to have that little bit more confidence on the brakes, especially, than Nicky does in his car at the moment, and had 2 push-to-passes in hand earlier in the race. So I think he has used those 2 to good effect to help him close in on Nicky. And now it's going to be all about whether Nicky can hold on and not make any mistakes, or can Elliot put him off in a way that opens the door somehow.
It's going to be exciting, though. Elliot does seem to be very aggressive on those brakes. He seems to close up an enormous amount, doesn't he? A good 5 yards or so into each and every corner. In fact, as we ride on board with them, just shout there, Lewis, to see, because of course we're coming up to that infamous turn 3, according to the track maps and everything. Turn 2 is just effectively a long straight. I never count it, actually, but it is going into turn 3, which we've seen a couple of spins from Chris Blakey. Andy Dorman got a bit loose on the rear end as well, and it's where we see Andy Dorman really close up as he hits the braking zone. Manages to clip the apex nicely. He's got that on rails, hasn't he, Lewis? It's very impressive. I mean, Nicky Taylor's not driving badly because obviously he's further away, but it's really very impressive in the brakes.
Yeah, I've noticed an interesting technique he does as he leaves it a gear higher than he needs to on turning. He wants second gear here, but he leaves it in third and pulls second just as he's about to get on the power. He doesn't do it at that corner because, of course, I was trying to say that he would, but he did it at the previous 2 corners. He takes that downshift just as he's getting onto the power. So that's just an interesting thing he must like to do for stability on the corner entry. Maybe it'll help him run a more aggressive car setup in terms of getting the car turned in on the entry without getting too oversteery on the entry. But he's dropped back a little bit from Nicky on this lap. I think Nicky has either put the hammer down or Elliot's began to overpush it ever so slightly. But these 2 are now 2.3 seconds clear of Jordan Taylor, who's holding on to a solid 3rd place at the moment. Andy Dorman is chasing him down, but 1.6 seconds back. He's using a push to pass to see if he can close that one in. And Jack Smith's managed to hold on to 5th place in what is rumoured to be a very difficult and not quick BMW with 50 kilograms of weight in the car.
Yeah, and he'll continue to have that 50 kilograms of ballast on board as well because he's so far ahead of the championship, which is a bit of a curse at this point, I think, for him, because he's now going to have to drive a very painful car pretty much the entirety of the next 4 rounds. We do have our Fabrizio Torri watch going on as well. Apparently, he's got past Chris Blakey. And here he is, in fact, Fabrizio Torri getting past Nathan Smith as well. Qualifying very well, of course, and getting involved in that incident right at the beginning of the race means that he wasn't able to quite take advantage of a good qualifying, but he is charging up the order. He's taking advantage of good pace anyway. So Bolton Scouser, thank you very much for the updates, and at least you got to see him overtake Nathan Smith on that particular occasion. He's got Oliver Gibson just ahead of him. Here's the recovery drive for Joel Lask, 13th place, and trying to overtake, is that Rich Hayden just ahead of him? I think it is, isn't it? Rich in 12th position, Joel Lask in 13th. They've had a few comings together, haven't they, over the course of this season, and potentially the special events that we were doing, the special event championships that we were doing as well, Lewis, and we're very much hoping that it stays as clean as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. They do love to get very aggressive with each other, these two. Now that Scott isn't here, Joel needs somebody to get overly aggressive with and have a good battle with. But unfortunately, more times than not, it ends up in contact and one of them or both of them off the track. But it looks like Joel's beginning to close in now. I'm surprised, given his starting position, he hasn't made more progress than he has. So maybe he's struggling a little bit with getting through the traffic, or maybe Joel didn't quite have the race pace that we were potentially expecting.
Yeah, it's a bit of a question mark over that one. I'm wondering whether he's just sort of like not that bothered and waiting for race 2, like we were talking about earlier, and not getting that excited leading up into this one. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we'll have a chat to him after race 2 if he does come on the podium and ask if that was in the thinking. Dalton Ayres and Nicky Taylor about a second apart from each other as we count down towards the last 25 seconds. This is probably going to be the final lap of the race, isn't it, Lewis? And Nicky Taylor, who had a bit of a scare at the beginning, really has done everything he needed to, though, once he got back into the race lead, controlled it well, and even with the pressure being applied from Elliot Dalton Ayres, controlled it, used the push to passes where he needed to, and his car does seem to be pretty much perfectly balanced, as you can see with the driving technique there on the picture-in-picture. No corrections whatsoever in the wet, where you know exactly how hard that is, isn't it? To get that car nice and smooth, he's driving it superbly.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And ever since we said, oh, Elliot's closing in, he's just withheld the pressure and has just built up the gap slowly. And it looks like he's come around the final corner to take what is probably, by his standards, a fairly easy win in the end.
Yeah, and he is flashing the lights. You can see him. And he's going to enjoy this one, isn't he? At 1.6 seconds, he's a pump of the fist. Normally, we see the finger to the camera as well. Not that kind of finger to the camera, the first place finger, anyway. We do often see the other one, I imagine, but we don't show it on film. But Nicky Taylor takes the first place. He's a very relieved man by the looks of it. Still celebrations going on. As Elliot Dalton Ayres takes second. Jordan Taylor takes a podium. Andy Dorman ended up in 4th in the end, with Jack Smith just about getting inside the top 5. I think Joel Lask got Rich Hayden across the line there, didn't he, Lewis? I'm not sure how that one happened as I was looking down the order. Did you catch it?
We didn't cut to it quite early enough, but it looked like he'd just got a better run out of the final corner to just about pip him to that 12th place in the end. Dave has just joined. Dave, Josh's 15th. Probably the less said about that, the better, if we're honest. And Nelson has finished his first VRRC race in 18th place. He's going to be going from 3rd on the grid, I believe, for race 2. So he'll get a taste of the action at the front of the field.
Yeah, and I'll get the opportunity to try and pronounce his name incorrectly as well. Right, we're going to go to a very short break before we chat to our podium sitters. Nicky Taylor, Elliot Dalton Ayres, and Jordan Taylor. Back in a sec. We have some drivers to talk to, and a very happy driver to start with. One that we've already spoken to, actually, is Nicky Taylor, who came home with a race victory from race number 1. And you turned that qualifying pole position to a race win, but it wasn't that easy. That start that you were worried about, Nicky, it came to haunt you a little bit.
Yeah, I screwed the start anyway. Like, I bogged massively and then got done, as I was saying, by about 5 cars. So I screwed myself anyway. But then Fabrizio kind of helped me out a bit by torpedoing Joel. And then I got caught in the backlash because I don't know what the hell happened, but I ended up going full flat out on my throttle to try and bring my front end of my car around after being spun in the first corner. And then I had orange damage for the whole race, which was fun. But yeah, then kind of saw Elliot was behind me for most of it, and then just tried to push away from him and tried to see where I was quicker. And I can see I'm quicker on exits of corners mainly, so we're quite good there. And yeah, just tried to use my push fast where I could, and basically done my fastest lap in the last lap. I don't know if it was the fastest lap in total, but yeah, just got my head down and just pushed away.
So I would love to tell you that it was the fastest lap, but I honestly have no idea. It was so frantic and so chaotic behind you that we sort of got lost with all of it. It was a very exciting race, though. You mentioned the first corner. I was hoping to ask you what on earth happened, because, to be honest, my computer went to about 3 frames per second, so I didn't see it. Well, from your perspective, was it just everything was rosy and then all of a sudden you got tapped round, or did you sort of just really go for it?
I got a bit of a boggy start, as I said, so I dropped down to about 5th or 4th at the first corner, so I was already down. But then Andy had kind of somehow managed to get through to basically in the lead in the first corner on the inside. Joel had gone outside and braked at his normal point, and then from what I could see, Fabrizio lost it and then went into Joel, and then Joel then got hit across the track, and it all kind of just went into skittles. So yeah, I just tried to avoid it as best as I could. I got orange damage, as I said, but yeah, it to be fair, it wasn't too bad in a straight line. I don't think Elliot was close enough at points to actually test out how bad it was, but yeah, it didn't seem too bad. So it's quite nice knowing that I can get orange damage and the car still be up there.
Well, you were very quick indeed, Nicky. Congratulations on the first race win. Good luck for trying to carve through the pack, and say hello to your dad for us, because he seems to be keen to try and get a shout out on the chat.
Will do.
So that was Nicky Taylor then, and Lewis Edwards is joined by our second position, Elliot Dalton-Ayres.
Elliot, a solid P2 for you there. Was there anything you could have done to get Nicky there at the end?
Maybe not. I mean, Nicky is very quick in the wet, as shown. I mean, I think I got down to a 3 as well with Nicky, so I don't know if I got the fastest lap. But yeah, it was a really good race. Managed to avoid whatever happened in that first corner. But yeah, just really solid race and really solid points.
Race 2 now, you're going to be starting from 19th on the grid. What's your plan to avoid the chaos?
Just avoid the chaos. No, I think take it easy that first corner, maybe the second one as well, and then just carve my way through, see what I can do, and hopefully no taps or spins occur, and go smooth sailing.
Well, PT for you, you're closing in on Jack in the championship now. Is the goal really to beat him in this second race as well, to really solidify that point deficit in your advantage?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you just want to beat as many people as you can. That's more points. But yeah, since Jack is above me in the championship, I definitely want to try and beat him.
Well, good luck. I hope we'll be speaking to you at the end of race 2.
Cheers, Lewis.
Jack.
Yes, that was Elliot Dalton-Ayres having a chat to Lewis Edwards there, and we've got the third place man on the podium as well, and in our commentary box, Jordan Taylor. Big congratulations, Jordan. This is a bit of a return to form for you.
Yeah, I've not had a good last couple rounds with contact and just a lack of practice and little bits like that. That's literally what I can say.
Well, I'm hoping you can say a little bit more than that on how happy you are, considering you are back on the podium.
I'm a bit lucky with the contact at the start, just to avoid that. in quali, I would like to quali higher. I wasn't far off Nicky and Elliot's pace in quali, or in practice. Them two were the quickest in the wet. And I wouldn't say held up. I closed up to someone and I didn't really want to back out my lap, and then there was like low time, so I was just ruined 4 laps on the bounce. So it kind of just messed me up for qualifying. So I think I qualified like 7th. I mean, I got back up there, but it was not where I wanted to be. So hopefully I can get another podium this race, but I'd be a bit eager. We'll see what we can do.
I was going to say, at least you got some practice to try and move yourself forwards in race 2, which of course is a hard thing to do, even if it is dry around the Red Bull Ring. There's plenty. It's a great track for overtaking, but when it's wet, the opportunities do become less.
Yes. Well, as everyone will be taking wet lines, I don't know if you saw it at all, but I optimized that and went up the inside of Andy at the hairpin. So that's kind of going to be my strategy: opening up people and just sending it down the inside whilst they take the wet line, and I try get past them on the dry line and see how we get on.
I was going to say, actually, I do remember that move. We did see it. It was very dramatic. It was a bit of a late lunge there. Was it fully planned, or did you think, oh my God, he's breaking early?
So the 3 laps on the bounce, I was trying to just see where I could go because I was getting on pushed pass off P1, and I'd get up onto him and really close on the brakes. So I knew he was taking that wide wet line. So if I just had my car alongside at the apex, he has to leave me some room, and he did. Thank you, Andy. You didn't turn in on me, and hopefully we can have more clean racing in race 2, which is a big ask.
Well, it may be a big ask, but we're ever hopeful, aren't we? And of
Yes.
course, the stewards will deal with it if there isn't. So, yeah, congratulations, Jordan. You never know, we might be speaking to you after this particular race.
Thank you.
And that was Jordan Taylor, and in fact, all 3 of our podium sitters there, Lewis. And I have to say, the decent interviews all round. A bit of a well, not new people on the podium because they're all people we've spoken to before, but it's nice to have a bit of a mix-up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to have them back on the podium. We haven't spoken to Jordan especially for a while, so it's good to see him really getting back on form. He's had struggles with getting caught up in incidents, as he's alluded to in his interview, and he just keeps getting better and better each round at staying out of trouble. But the real test is going to be, can he do it in race 2, which we're going to get into very shortly.
We are indeed, yeah, about 30 seconds time. On pole position, if I looks of it, will be that driver, Kenny Press. I'm not going to say any more about Kenny. I feel like I bigged him up enough just to see him chuck it off a couple of times now. So we won't say anything more about that. But Nelson I almost said it wrong again.
Here we go.
Brunhosa is the driver on 2nd position on the front row of the grid as well. I'm excited to see how he gets on in the thick of it. John Jones as well. Alok Iyengar right there. Alok Iyengar with that rear wheel drive. Expect to see him going pretty well off the line and going into that first corner with the lights are about to come on. That means the engine notes are about to rise. Kenny Press on pole position. Can he get a better start than Nicky Taylor? Pretty much anybody can get a better start than Nicky Taylor's first race, to be honest. And as the lights go out, we are racing. It's got a little bit laggy for me once again. Lewis, talk us through it.
Well, it looks like Josh Martin's got a brilliant start. He's currently up to 3rd, going for a move on Kenny Press, but it looks like Stu... Oh, no, Stu's gone round on the exit. There's carnage everywhere. Andy Carroll round in the background, but it looks like Josh Martin's going for the lead. Andy Carroll is still backwards, a bit further back now. All sorts of cars involved in that, so we'll begin to dissect that a bit later on. But at the moment, it's Josh Martin who's got the lead. Kenny's still up there in 2nd place. Don't want to curse it. Come on, Kenny. And John Jones going for the inside on Alok Iyengar. Has he managed to get it stopped? Yes, he has. But Alok's going to get a good exit. No, that front-wheel drive Corolla. No, it's the Hyundai. Oh, looks like we've got a safety car. Safety car, I believe. Josh is weaving and going pretty slowly there. So, bit of carnage. And now back down to earth again.
Yeah, it's been difficult for some reason. My computer likes to just drop down to 3 frames per second as the lights go out, which is really very annoying. But oh well, we can now dissect a little bit of what's going on, can't we? Shu Vickers, I don't think it was a driver who was appearing high on my timing screen, but I think he was right at the front of the field, wasn't he? He's now all the way down to 19th place. So is he the driver that we saw spinning into turn 1?
Yeah, he was. He was the Phoenix Sim Racing driver who just dropped it on the entry to turn 1. I think he was on the apex curb and on the entry curb, he just slammed on the brakes, a bit like we saw from a couple of drivers in race 1, and unfortunately that's just sent him round. But yeah, Dave, Josh Martin's in first. It's a miracle.
Yeah, Dave's probably tuned out now. He probably saw the race 1 result and thought, you know what, I missed my weather report. I'm not worth watching that.
He's still here.
Oh, is he? Is he still here? That's good. I was just about to speak about a few of the drivers, the likes of Jordan Taylor. Obviously, 3rd place. That means he was starting 3rd off the bottom. He's up to 10th place, so he's really taking advantage of that contact. As Josh Martin is not letting them get away, is he? He's bunching them right up until he gets out of that final corner. And in that rear-wheel drive BMW, I can completely understand it. He's waiting. The safety car is ending at the end of this lap. And there we go. He's all of a sudden gone, backing everybody else up. He guns it, not even using the hybrid to go into turn 1 on those cold tyres. He's getting a nice little gap. And look at the amount of space. He almost still gets rear-ended from John Jones sending Kenny Press into the back of him. And wow, oh wow, on a day that could have had so much hope for Kenny Press, he gets it all taken away from him into turn 1 as Josh Martin continues to try and warm his tyres up. Alok Iyengar, it's a BMW 1-2, but it's not the drivers we're used to saying that earlier on in this season. With Oliver Gibson and Jack Smith further down the pit, Nelson goes very deep into turn 3. He's currently in 3rd place, almost rear ends Alok Iyengar as we currently watch Chris Blakey get overtaken by Oliver Gibson. Jordan Taylor's up to 6th. We said he was 10th across the line. He's up to 6th now. Where is this is Nelson being overtaken by Paul Laramie? No, Alok Iyengar, and it is Paul Laramie, isn't it? Paul Laramie in the Auto Mac car, getting nice and wide on the outside of that Civic. It's Alok Iyengar, even wider actually, but Josh Martin's driving away with it.
He is at the moment. Paul Laramie's blitzing the hybrid in order to try and get himself into 2nd place so that he can try and disappear up the road from any battles, I think is the strategy he's employing at the moment. He was really blitzing through it. That's why he was going 3 wide to try and get up into 2nd place. But yeah, Josh has got the lead at the moment. That's Oliver Gibson.
It is. It's Oliver Gibson who's facing the wrong way, and Andy Carroll was involved in that as well. Heartbreak for Oliver Gibson. It's just in that mid-pack, isn't it? It's that racecraft. Oh, I keep saying racecraft. I don't mean that Oliver Gibson is a bad racer, but he just seems to get caught up in more incidents than other drivers around him. It's a bit of a shame for him, as Nelson is now in 4th place. Seems to be a bit of a cork in the bottle, doesn't he? He's holding up the likes of Jordan Taylor, Elliot Dalton-Ayres, Chris Blakey, all of these sort of drivers who you'd be thinking are going to push through rather soon. 15 minutes left to go. Elliot Dalton-Ayres looking at the inside of Jordan Taylor, thinking better of it. Just about controls the brakes to get into the apex as they come off the first corner. Nelson was on the hybrid going into it. He won't have the option coming out of it as Jordan Taylor is on it. This should be a fairly standard overtake. Lewis, is he going to go into the inside of turn number 3? The outside of turn 2. It's going to be Jordan Taylor's 4th position. Thank you very much. As Elliot Dalton-Ayres tries to follow him through, he had a little bit of a look, but nothing doing just yet.
Yep, as advertised, Jordan said he'd be going up the inside of people when they're trying to go wide to take the wet racing line and taking the place, and that's exactly what he's done so far. Well, I said, how would Jordan fare in race 2? Well, he's currently in 4th place. That's a good dive from Nelson. Has he managed to get it stopped? He has, but he's overslowed it ever so slightly, which has let Jordan back through, and Elliot's now going to have the inside for the next corner because we're going to sweep off to the right of screen now. He's going to be at the inside and he's got the place, but Nelson's still holding on to 6th place.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a really sort of gutsy move there from Nelson, and being a new driver to the championship, you're never really quite sure how everybody's going to react to you. So you've got to be brave, you've got to be trustworthy. And to be fair, I think Jordan Taylor very much sort of half saw it coming, didn't he? Well, Nelson was on the hybrid. He see it coming, but good racing respect from all round there. Here is Jack Smith. I saw Nicky Taylor getting a bit loose as well through the sector 2. Maybe not quite on rails as he was hoping.
Not now.
Big contact, and is that Nicky Taylor? Yeah, there we go. As I was talking about him, he's heading towards the pit, and that's not intentionally. Just about gets away with getting back onto the actual racetrack. Doesn't have to go through the pits, but he's in 12th position. Who did he make contact with? We'll have a look in a second as Josh Martin has lost this race lead. Paul Laramie. Now, there's a driver we haven't mentioned much at all this championship. he is currently leading this race.
He is. He's using the hybrid up quite a bit at the moment, but he has managed to get into the effective race lead, and he's going to hold it on the inside. There's no way Josh Martin's going around the outside here. Surely not. But he might get a good exit. Is that what he's been setting up for? They're about even. Josh is going to have to use some hybrid, I think, if he wants to make a move here. The only thing for Paul is he needs to pull away now. He really needs to get that gap, because he has already got 6 hybrids less than Josh does. Oh, he's in the gravel.
Oh, that's not going to help. Oh, Paul Laramie almost spinning Josh off as well as a struggling Joel Lask that gets it just about back on the circuit. But Paul Laramie causing all sorts of chaos. He got into the race lead on merit, and unfortunately he's lost it on merit as well, basically. He threw it off, got stuck in the gravel. Josh Martin just about nipped up his inside as he almost got spun round, and Joel Lask avoided the incident as well, keeping it just out of the gravel and getting into second place. So Tony Blair almost got a bit of an earful from Dave in the YouTube chat, but luckily Josh Martin's got back into the race lead. Let's see what Paul Laramie's got up his sleeve now, but with a whole host of hybrids lost in trying to make that progress, you got to feel like he's thrown it away a little bit.
Yeah, he's kind of missed the moment a little bit, but he's only got 2 less than Jordan Taylor, who is pretty much pushing him round the track at the moment, although it looks like he's going to be going for a move up the inside. He's just going to make sure he gets a good exit to keep this place sealed. But it looks like he's covered him off just about on the exit there. Kind of a block pass from Jordan to make sure that Paul couldn't benefit from a really good exit there. And at the moment, that puts him up into 3rd place, and now Elliot has followed Jordan through, and it looks like he's going to be shaping for a move to get up into 4th place.
Yeah, here goes Elliot Dalton-Ayres trying to go around the outside of Paul Laramie. Is there going to be a little bit of contact? I think there was. My computer went down to about 3 frames per second again as Jack Smith makes contact with Nathan Smith. The battle of the Smiths right now as they one of them jumps on the hybrid, which is Jack. Nathan is going to be a bit of a sitting duck here. I don't think he's going to have it. Andy Dorman just ahead of them as well is on the hybrid. And here goes Jack Smith again. Rescuing points. It's all about damage limitation while he's got that much weight on, Lewis.
Oh, Josh Martin's lost the lead of the race now, as Dave has pointed out in the chat. Joel has got through. I think at the moment, Josh is just going to be thinking about, I need to bag some points here. Looks like he's just trying to drag the pace out of the car, but it just isn't there for him. So I think he's just going to try and consolidate the most amount of points he possibly can. But Paul Laramie's not given up on holding this place off from Elliot Dalton-Ayres. He's only 2/10 back. I think we could see part 2 coming up very shortly.
Yeah, it's well, I don't really know which way. You'd logically say that Elliot Dalton-Ayres should pull away from Paul Laramie, just given on pace that Elliot has shown over the course of this evening. But look at how much of a problem Paul Laramie is causing. He's on the hybrid and he's up the inside. Elliot Dalton-Ayres is also on the hybrid, which is why it's not looking that easy. But as they go towards the pit wall, just enough room was left. Paul Laramie squeezed to the inside. He gets the move done. He got the apex and he got the exit, Lewis. Great driving from Paul Laramie.
Absolutely. That was an absolutely brilliant move from Paul. Did everything he could there to make sure he got the place nicely and not to give away a huge run to Elliot. He's going for a switchback. This is late. No, not quite. Paul managed to hold the line nicely as, bit of a tap forwards from Elliot there, bit of a speed boost on the exit there. Couldn't quite manage to get the overlap on Paul there. So that is going to give him a little bit of a gap now. So he's going to have a bit of breathing room. It's allowing Andy Dorman to get a bit excited by this battle. He's got his headlights on nice and bright, so he can absolutely see what's going on in front of him. He's beginning to close in on this battle, who are now dropping back from Jordan Taylor, who is edging towards Josh Martin. So are we going to see, potentially, I think we could see Jordan Taylor on the podium definitely for a second time this evening.
Well, I wonder if he's going to be more enthusiastic than his first one, because really, I was surprised. I thought we'd be talking to him and he'd be absolutely buzzing and finding some form again, but he seems a little bit almost subdued, didn't he? Maybe he was focused, maybe he was ready, maybe race 2 is where he thought he was actually going to earn his podium. He fully earned it in race 1, but I'm hoping that he's going to be jubilant with the race 2 podium if he manages to keep it. But Paul Laramie has turned the wick up. He's not there because he's slow, Lewis. He's right up there. He was leading this race, of course, purely on merit, like I said. And yes, okay, he's churning through the hybrids. He probably have none less by the time he gets to 5 minutes. But still a fairly impressive drive, even if he did chuck it off.
Yeah, he's definitely showing the pace that we all know he has. But he's beginning to lose a bit of time now. But Elliot's dropped off the back a little bit, so I think he's had a bit of a scruffy kind of previous couple of sectors. So he's going to have to recuperate and then launch another attack on Paul Laramie. But Jordan Taylor is really getting close to the back of Josh Martin now. He's beginning to really shape for a move further back. It looks like Nathan Smith and Alok Iyengar are still going at it. And looks like Nathan's got the move done this time, as you saw a move from Andy Carroll on his recovery drive through on Chris Blakey now. Obviously, one of our latest race winners is unfortunately down the order after we saw he was fairly backwards at the start of the race, as Elliott seems to have recuperated. The gap's down to 0.2 of a second now. So he's really beginning to get towards this battle, and in fact it's becoming a Josh Martin train now, dare I say it. Looks like people are queuing up to try and get past.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame with Josh Martin. He's dropped 4 seconds on Joel Lasku. To be fair, Joel did qualify in 2nd place, so realistically, if it wasn't for that contact in the first race, he would have been right up there in race 1, and then we were talking about the fact that he had to rescue a little bit going into race number 2, didn't he? And he's doing exactly that. Jordan Taylor's doing a great job, and he might actually catch and overtake Josh Martin here. He's going to be going on the outside into turn number 1. How are they going to go into the braking zones? We know that Josh Martin's pretty confident on the brakes. There he is, Josh Martin, in his big rain jacket, but I think around the outside, Jordan Taylor has just done the move of the day. I didn't even get excited about it at the start, because I thought there's no way that he's going to be able to pull that one off. But wow, good racing respect from Jordan Taylor and Josh Martin. Taylor around the outside. He must be happy with that one. Taylor's looking at the inside. Sorry, Martin's looking at the inside, trying to whack on that steering lock. But I think Taylor's got a nice late apex, really late on the power. Josh Martin's on the hybrid, though. He's not going to have any room. Jordan just about leaves him enough room to squeeze at the inside. This is a really good battle here, Lewis, as Josh Martin's going to take back that 2nd place. Is he going to overcook it into the corner? I think he may well have just done. Going to get a late apex. Oh, I didn't think he hit the late apex, but he is just about got away with it. But Jordan Taylor around the outside of turn 1, you don't see moves like that very often.
Yeah, that was definitely the best move we've seen all race, as we've got a proper side-by-side battle going on further back. Somehow Paul Laramie is still ahead of Elliot Dalton-Ayres. So Jack Smith must have paid him a fair bit to block Elliot as much as possible, because it's actually him that's closing in on this group now. He's recuperated from being about 3rd last after the safety car to being right up there in 7th place now, which is not where we'd expect Jack Smith. But if you're getting about 5th and 7th on your really bad days, then you're in for a fairly good championship, I would say. So it seems like Jack's got the ability to maybe get some more points back on his rivals if they're going to continue battling like this, because they're in the 44s. Andy Dorman's on a 43.7, and Jack Smith is nearly a second quicker than this group as they battle. But it looks like Jordan Taylor is shaping up another attack on Josh Martin.
Yeah, well, he's going to be keen to get past, isn't he? If Paul Laramie has anything to say about it, they'll be itching to get through. Here comes Jordan Taylor looking for another move around the outside. We said that, he said in his own words that he'd be diving up the inside of everybody as they take the wet line, but he's just driven around the outside of Josh Martin yet again. And this time, no hybrid's going to rescue Josh Martin. He's not even bothered to use it. Here goes Elliot Dalton-Ayres versus Paul Laramie just behind as well. Could we see 2 major moves in this race happen in 2 corners? And Elliot Dalton-Ayres has now got past Paul Laramie. No one's keen to see Jordan Taylor drive off into 2nd without much of a fight. They all want to try and get past and chase him down. Joel Lask is 7.5 seconds up the road. Wave goodbye to him, because if he's not going to spin it off on his own, it's going to be a race victory to Joel Lask. That's pretty much certain, with less than 4.5 minutes to go. Josh Martin holding on to that podium for the time being, but with Elliot Dalton-Ayres breathing down his neck and Jordan Taylor able to go around the outside just as easily like that, you got to wonder how long it's going to last.
I think Elliot might have got it figured out now. I think he might have to settle for 3rd place if he does clear Josh, but I think he's definitely going to be looking for a move somewhere fairly shortly, because there's a definite train appearing now as Jack Smith's really closing in on Andy Dorman and has a fairly large amount of hybrids to use. As we predicted, Paul Laramie is out of hybrids. Josh Martin does have 5 hybrids remaining though, and Elliot's only got 1, so I think there's definitely still potential for Josh to recuperate some of the time lost here.
There is. I'm just looking a little bit further down the order as Elliot Dalton gets past Josh Martin. Seeing if there's any other storylines. As Josh Martin actually, no, he's going to distract me once more because he's on the hybrid, I think. And driving up and around the outside. Look at how late he blocked Elliot Dalton. That's a little bit risky. I wouldn't have blamed Elliot Dalton if he accidentally bumped Josh Martin up the backside there, because it was such a late move across the front nose of Dalton there, but they all get away with it nicely clean. Dalton is clearly a better driver than I am, although that's not a shock because I'm here behind a microphone and he's still in the car. So, yeah, and Paul Laramie versus Jack Smith, though. Jack Smith being forced all the way around the outside of Paul Laramie, who's just about giving him enough room. I thought they were going to keep rubbing doors. There is a very calm and composed. Nope, that's not very calm and composed. Jack Smith, that's about as animated as we've ever seen him behind the wheel, and all he did was hold up the hold up his hand. He is now past, though, Paul Laramie, and he's got his eyes focused firmly forward as Andy Dorman gets a bit of a of loving from Paul Laramie as well. Paul is a little bit hefty with the movement, shall we say, is probably the most PC way I could put it, Lewis.
Yeah, defending like a lion is, I think, the way Fernando Alonso would put it. But yeah, he's clinging on to every place for dear life because he knows that he's in a good shout for his best points of the season so far. So I think he's really trying to cling to it as best as he can. Elliot's going to be launching another attack at Josh Martin here, I feel, though. Oh, down the inside.
Yeah, goes up the inside, tries to fake it out of it, but to be fair, I don't think Josh Martin really moved from his defensive position, and through goes Jack Smith. Elliot Dalton has tried his best. Josh Martin didn't get scared from it. He didn't move at all. He didn't buy the fake, and Jack Smith saw the opportunity, drove around the outside of an aggressive Elliot Dalton. Now, what can Smith do with that Josh Martin? If he can get through him quickly, that's going to be crucial because ultimately there's only a minute and a half left. The two BMWs go side by side, and Elliot Dalton Josh Martin is on the hybrid actually, so he's not going to be overtaken going into the next corner. But Elliot Dalton looks like he's keen. He got a good exit. He's again trying to fake, trying to look at the inside. Jack Smith coming back across. Andy Dorman against Paul Laramie in the background as well, and through. No, round goes Paul Laramie almost with Andy Dorman giving him a bump at the rear. That's caused him to really fall back, and Rich Hayden gets through on Andy Dorman and separates Andy versus Paul for the time being. But that's given Jack Smith and Elliot Dalton a bit of breathing room to settle it amongst themselves.
It has, and what a drive from Jack Smith. I think his move to capitalise on Elliot's lack of momentum at turn 1 just about beats out Jordan Taylor's pass around the outside for move of the day, but they have been absolutely brilliant from the pair of them. So yeah, we're going to have to think long and hard about who gets our driver of the round vote, because Jordan has already won it. Oh, very sideways for Jack there on the exit. He really had to pull in a good save there, and now it looks like it's going to be defending from Elliot rather than trying to attack Josh on this final lap for Jack. Someone we haven't mentioned pretty much for the most part of the race is Joel Lask, who is 8.8 seconds up the road in first place. I mean, as far as winning drives go, that's right up there with some of the best.
Yeah, it's very, very dominant, isn't it? It's Elliot Dalton we'll talk about him more in a second. Dalton goes to the outside. Josh Martin, I thought was going to potentially get rear-ended. Dalton around the outside. It's a wet line working well, but here comes Jack Smith and Josh Martin using that hybrid. Jack Smith using that rear-wheel drive to get off the corner nice and easily and gets ahead of Dalton Ayres. He's really having to work for these championship points now, isn't it? It's what we love to see because he's got that 50 kilograms of ballast on board. He's so much heavier than everybody around him, isn't he, Jack Smith? But that's the point of the ballast. You need to, as soon as we whack it on, the driver needs to be at their tippy top to potentially get good championship points. And Jack Smith in this second race is certainly right at the top of his game, isn't it? He's been very, very impressive to get anywhere near a podium position. But this is the final lap, and this is our race leader coming up to the final corner now, final couple of corners, sorry. Joel Lask, been utterly dominant since he's got to the front. Fantastic drive from him. Lewis has already given him a shout out about a lap ago, but apart from that, we haven't really mentioned him, and that's the way he'll like it, I'm sure, because he's come away with an 8, nearly 9-second lead to take the victory here in race 2 at the Red Bull Ring. Qualified on second place, got caught up in an incident. We'll ask him about that in race 1. Jordan Taylor makes it 2 podiums from 2 at Red Bull as well. He's going to be loving life as Josh Martin comes across the line, just about clinging on to that podium position, with Jack Smith charging through the order to finally get his 4th place. Elliot Dalton Ayres in the top 5. Nice and consistent evening from him. Paul Laramie, a bit too much argy-bargy for my opinion, but still collecting that 6th position. Rich Hayden for Bizio Torri. Nicky Taylor, our race 1 winner, only managing up to 9th. And Andy Dorman rounding out the top 10. Oliver Gibson only managed 11th. Let's see if there's anybody else who's sort of quite heavily out of position now. Sort of everybody else is sort of where we maybe expect them to be come the end of this race. But Joel Lask, Lewis, absolutely dominant. We'll be having a chat to him in about 30 seconds time after this quick advert break. Welcome back, everybody. We have a bunch of, well, 3 very buoyant drivers. They were very chatty when we were going just before we came live again. They were hoping they were going to be equally chatty in the interview. But first of all, we have to speak to our first place finisher, and it's Joel Lask. Joel, well, I'm going to start with qualifying and quickly run through race 1. Let's face it, qualifying went pretty well. You qualified on the front row, but race 1, talk us through it.
So I don't know. I got the jump on Nicky. I come across, I had loads of room, and then I just see a car in my mirror coming towards me, and that was it. I got collected. I had suspension damage, front and rear, wings had completely gone. Yeah, it was a done deal from there. So it was sort of damage limitation. But yeah, these things happen. That's how race 1 should have gone with the win. But you can't win them all.
I was going to ask, what was the thinking, or was there no thinking, if there was so much damage for race 1? Was it a case of, you know what, get that reverse grid, good position, or were you trying to rescue points, or was it a case of you didn't really have an option?
I didn't really have an option, to be fair. To be honest, it was just trying to get some overtakes in, just see where I could overtake people, what corners, things like that, so I could sort of go at it for race 2, and it sort of helped, to be fair, albeit with a bit of damage, so... Yeah.
Well, going into race 2, sublime, really, once you got through to the front. Sort of talk us through that one, because it wasn't easy right at the start, was it? You actually had to get to the front, but after that, we stopped talking about you pretty much, which is probably how you like it.
I mean, yeah, I got collected T1 again, which wasn't great. Luckily, I didn't have damage this time, so I got away with it a little bit. But then it was just sort of biding my time a bit. I see Josh battling up in front, and I thought, you know what, I'll let him do that a little bit. I know I had the pace, so yeah, it was just sort of wait for my chance and then send it, really.
Is this, do you think this is a bit of a turn for the championship, potentially, in terms of your pace? Do you reckon this can carry on, or do you just really like Red Bull? Do you really like the wets? What's the deal?
To be honest, I hate the wet. So
good. Okay, that means you'll be quicker to dry.
Yeah, Red Bull Ring is my favourite track, though, so... I mean, I don't think I've got anywhere near of a shot towards the championship, but yeah, just see how far we can climb, I suppose.
Well, good stuff, Joel. I believe you've climbed quite a few positions in that after this evening, so you will be quite pleased with it, I'm sure. Big congratulations on the race win in race number 2, and hopefully we'll chat to you next week.
Awesome. Cheers, mate.
Right. In second place, and talking to Lewis Edwards, was a driver that I've spoken to earlier. It's Jordan Taylor.
Yeah, Jordan, P2. So that's 2 podiums this evening. You got to be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think I'm back on form. I'm back to Magny-Core. I'm back on that form. Just as I said earlier, I had a bad couple of rounds, and everyone has them. So I'm glad I'm back on pace. And as Joel was saying about the wet, I would love it to. If Eric is watching, I would love more rain, please. But I was scared if it dried up because Joel's pace in the drive was ridiculous. So I'm glad it stayed wet. And I kind of did what I said I'd do in the interview.
Yeah, you did. We noticed that on the broadcast. What is it about the Red Bull Ring that's just clicked with you more than some of the other tracks?
I mean, it's not so much the clicking of the track. I've struggled because we've got the ride height now, and last season was one of my first ever sim events, and they've all been fixed. I've never had to deal with ride height changes. I don't know what benefits. What doesn't benefit, so trying to get used to that and trying to get that to my advantage is hard. So when you don't know anything, so Bruno ride height meant quite a lot, and I just couldn't get my head around it, and I was just struggling because I think I had a lot of ballast for my instance that carried over from last season. So yeah, I've had a bad couple of rounds, and now I'm back at it because I've got my head around some little bits. That's all.
Well, looking forward, next round is going to be Zandvoort. How do you like Zandvoort? Is it one of your favourites?
I've driven it twice on F1, and I think I did about 3 laps in each race, so no clue. Can't possibly tell you.
So as long as it rains, you're happy then?
Yeah, unless I'm quick in the drive, obviously, I might have to message Eric and beg and plead, but...
So basically just bribe Eric for some nice weather and you should be pretty happy with it.
Oh, no bribe. That was my secret. No way now.
Well, congratulations on the 2 podiums, and we've also decided you are going to be the driver of the round, so well done for that.
Yeah, I've got 2 coats now.
I was going to say, we decided that is breaking a rule, Jordan, but that's how well you drove tonight. So make sure you give it away as a Christmas present or something like that.
I'll try to sell it to someone in the
No, don't sell it. Give it away as a Christmas present.
Thank you to everyone who, you and Jack for, voting me, and I'm sure Rich actually knew who's racing, so he probably didn't have a word in that, but thank you for voting me.
No, we're probably going to get shouted at afterwards. But Jordan Taylor, a big thank you for coming in and chatting to us, and congratulations on the 2 podiums.
Thank you.
Right, Lewis, I'm actually going to let you have a quick chat because I can hear commotion outside my door. I'm going to let you have a quick chat with Josh Martin, which I'm sure you'll be delighted about.
Yeah, Josh, P3 for you there. You never seem to like to have uneventful races. Talk us through that.
To be honest, it was easy. It was easier. Easier is probably the wrong word, but it was easier than I anticipated it to be. To be honest, I thought I was going to have a big Josh Martin train from kind of lap 2 onwards, which I don't know. I might have been able to come higher up if I had a big train of cars behind me, because when you've just got one individual behind you, it was really hard for me to try and keep them behind, because I was like slower down the straights and slower around the corners, so I didn't really have much chance anywhere. But when you have a big pack of cars behind you, like I found in race 1, I can like play them against each other, and then it's a lot easier to keep them behind. So so keeping Jordan and Joel, I don't feel I had much of a chance, and Jordan's move was really good on me. He went straight around the outside of that top hairpin, so fair play to him.
I think the words Josh Martin train may or may not have been used in broadcast by me and or Dave, to the surprise of absolutely nobody. But Zandvoort is up next. Is that one of your favourites, or is that going to be a bit more of a new track to you?
I have driven it before, but not for a long. I don't think I've driven the new layout. I don't even know what layout we're doing. Are we doing the ones with the bank corners or the flat?
It is going to be the new layout that they use in F1.
Well, I've not done that one yet. But no, I kind of, I know which corners come after one another, so we'll see. But then I don't do track to track. My pace seems all over the place. So I guess we'll have to wait till start doing some laps to see where I'll be.
And are you going to have Dave spotting for you next time out?
I might get Dave to drive for me. To be honest, I might come higher up the grid, especially in qualifying.
Yeah, Dave was despair, I think is the word I would describe it, after he came and saw your qualifying position. So I think he's a bit happier now you're on the podium.
Yeah, I was actually really happy with my qualifying lap. Like my doubter to like the guys in the same car, like Jack, who's obviously so fast. My doubter to him was closer than it's been all the season. So I was happy actually with my pace. In my lap, I made a mistake just trying things to try and gain something on the front wheel drives. But no, so I don't know what to say really. So far, my lap was good. It's just the pace of the car, I guess.
Have you got a plan for some better pace at Zandvoort, or is it just keep working away at it and hope something clicks?
See, I wasn't fancy dressed this week, and Jordan talked me into putting a coat on before the race. So I think taking the coat off is going to be a good start to get some more pace because I am roasting.
Well, he might have just told you to do that to weigh you down, so you couldn't defend from him as well. That's why he went around the outside of you.
That's what it was.
Well done, Josh. It's great to have you back on the podium, and we hope to speak to you again at Zandvoort once you've learnt the track.
Yeah, hopefully. I'll try my best.
So that concludes.
Right, that is. Sorry about that, Lewis. I forgot normally that it's Andy who comes back and takes it off me, isn't it? I forgot what he normally does. Yes, but thank you very much to Josh Martin, and congratulations to all three podium sitters. It's about that time that we have a quick look at what the championship is saying and how we're going to leave the Red Bull ring. Please do subscribe and everything. We have got the fan of the round as well. I'll announce it now. In fact, it's the Bolton Lad and Scouser. Apparently, you haven't won the fan of the round, which is astonishing to me. You must have been overlooked at some point. I think Dave actually just picked you on the first week, didn't he? But Bolton Scouser, as I call you, thank you very much. An NGK bobble hat will be coming your way. Right, championship. The Jack Smith show is currently getting a bit closer, isn't it? 142, Elliot Dalton Ayres on 116. And as I said, the fight for second place is just as close as it was at the beginning of the evening, really. Nicky Taylor in third and Oliver Gibson currently in fourth. Joel Lask is in the front row for the fifth place battle. Andy Carroll has been demoted down to seventh. For Jordan Taylor, wedged nicely in between them. And the fight for fifth place is really the one we're going to be looking at. And the fight for second, with them all trying to chase down Jack Smith, of course. You can see the rest of the drivers following suit all the way down to Chris Blakey in 13th position. Right, and I think that's, we're just going to have a look at the rest of the rounds that we've got coming up in the championship. We've been to Magny-Cours, we've been to Brno, Mugello, Barcelona, and we kicked off the second half of the season here at the Red Bull Ring. We're going to finish off next week. Already heard lots about Zandvoort and the drivers' opinions on it, when we're off back home to Donington Park and then to Hockenheim to finish off the season. Should be a rather exciting way to finish off the last couple of rounds. Right, a big thank you to everybody who has joined in on the YouTube chat. A big thank you to all the drivers and the administration team behind VRRC for having us on. My name's been Jack Oliphant. Lewis Edwards has been alongside me, doing a fantastic job as ever in the broadcast and co-commentary sub-role. We'll see you next week for more action here at the Cammus Simulation Touring Car Championship Season 5. See you then. Between the two of them,
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.